So if I had this equation and I wanted to solve it, I go back to my favorite saying, you look and see if you could factor it, because if you can factor it, you should. And to solve this, I'm looking for the x-intercepts, which makes y equal to 0. Do you see why I just changed y to 0? Because I want the x-intercepts. They are what is called the solutions. All right, so I set it equal to 0. Now 0 equals, and then can you factor it? And you should be able to. Some of you are super good and quick at this, and others need to struggle with it. And either way, take a second, factor it. I'll pause while you do. Okay, by now, hopefully all of you have figured out it was x and x. If there's any negative sign, there has to be a negative sign. And the only question is there two negative signs? Is there? No, because you would end up not being able to get a -6 at the end if you use two negatives. So it has to be a plus and a minus. Notice you do the signs, in my opinion, do the signs before you figure out the numbers. And the last thing is you figure out the numbers. And you're thinking about, is this one of the easy kind where you can multiply this and add to that? Well, I don't really like that rule because it doesn't always work, because sometimes if there's a number in the front, it won't work. So what it always will work out to is it'll multiply to -6. Did you figure out it was a -6 and a 1? Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, awesome. And then that's factoring, and that's not the answer. The answer is x equals 6 and x equals -1, and those are the x-intercepts. So you could put 6, 0 if you wanted it to be written that way, and -1, 0, because y was 0. Are you good with that? Now, what happens if it doesn't factor? X squared plus 3x plus 1 doesn't factor. What did I just teach you yesterday? It's called complete the square. Let's do that. Move all of this over. The plus 1 equals 0. All of that, move it over a little bit. Gives us room to work. And then do you remember the half and square thing? But wait, stop. We're changing the 3 to an 8 because it's just too much of a pain to have all those fractions. So I'm going to cheat, make the problem easy. So make that into an 8x. It's not like it would, the other way would work. It's just so gross to have all those fractions that it wouldn't solve very nice. All right, so now I can do half and square. Half of 18 is, or sorry, half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. If I do plus 16 here, which is the factoring part, then I do a minus 16 here. And now I have x plus 4 quantity squared minus 17 equals 0. Remember, we would have factored, this is not factoring. We didn't factor it. We did complete the square. Oh, yep. You're right, it's -15. Good catch. Oops, that was just an oops. I was too busy thinking about how to explain this next part. Okay, why didn't we just factor it? Because we couldn't. If we could have factored, can factor, you should, but we couldn't factor it. So we can do this. And why is this good? Let me show you. Because I can solve it from here. I can add 15 to both sides. That's another way of saying I'm just going to move this over to there and make it plus 15. Do you understand that so far? Now, do you remember this deal where I can now take the square root of both sides? And I get the absolute value of x plus 4. Look, no more squared. And the square root of 15 is the square root of 15. Now, I know some of you want to break it up into 5 and 3. That's not going to help. If one of them was per square, it'd be great, but it isn't. So we leave it as square root of 15. And then I'm almost done. From here, you just have to break it into x plus 4 is the square root of 15. And x plus 4 is the opposite of the square root of 15. And then you finish it by subtracting 4 all the way across. You'll have two answers. -4 plus the square root 15. I'm doing this because when you have a Schoology quiz, that's how you'll have to type it. And x equals -4 minus SQRT 15. And I think they want a parenthesis too. I'm pretty sure it tells you in a little hint how to type it. One more thing. They're going to say to put the smaller answer first. Is A smaller or is B smaller? There is a right answer. You just need to think about it. I know negative numbers can be confusing, but do you get the more negative it is, the smaller it is? Like negative 30 is smaller than negative 1. Okay. So what's smaller? B is smaller because it has, you are subtracting on B instead of adding. So this one is the smaller one. That's part of getting the answers right this time, because they're going to tell you put the smaller answer first. And you have to. Which is just the one that has the minus in it. Remember, one has a plus, one has a minus, because if we had done it another way, which some smart kid could easily say, Mr. Server, I want to solve this with the quadratic formula. Because that is a good way. If you can factor it, you should, and the follow-up is you could use the quadratic formula, but the problem is the quadratic formula has 16 parts. So it's not like it's super easy either. Now, your job is going to be to solve this problem. And I'm not going to care if you use the quadratic formula or if you use the way I just showed you. But the way I just showed you helps you practice complete the square. So I think it's good. All right, let's do one more. You ready? I set it equal to 0, would have been a y, but if I set y equal to 0, I'm finding the x-intercept. That makes sense so far? Now, if you look to factor it, can't factor it, should. But if that won't work, you either have to use a quadratic formula, and that's not what today is really about. Today was really about, can you practice the half and square thing? Half of 10 is 5. 5 squared is 25. And a minus 25. This part factors. Minus 28. And from there, you just practice finding vertex form, which is cool. It's handy. It's going to be on your test. And now we can use that same thing. The minus 28 goes over here and makes a positive 28 to start one of these kind of problems. And I'm going to solve it way faster than a 16-part formula. Split x plus 5 square root of 28. Wait, is the square root of 28 going to work out nice? I feel like, did you guys know how to find out if 4 goes into something? The question is if 2 goes into it twice. So take 28, split it in half. What do you get? 14. Can you split it in half again? That means 4 goes into it. You get what I'm saying? Why do I care? Because root 4 is going to be a perfect square. 4 times what is 28? So then it's really 2 root 7. Yeah, you have to do that. You can't leave your answer not reduced. So square root of 28 would have to change to 2 root 7. So now, x plus 5 is 2 root 7, and x plus 5 is negative 2 root 7. And now you just have to subtract 5 from all parts of it, and you've got it. And the one that has the minus in it is always the smaller of the two. So if you were typing this into Schoology, you would have put in that answer first. Negative 5 minus 2 SQRT7. And this one, negative 5 plus 2 SQRT7. I think you get it. So now you have a whole bunch of work time. It's a Schoology quiz. Please find the Schoology quiz. Let's do the first problem together. Okay, number 1. Colin, can you read me number 1?
X minus 2 squared equals 12.
Oh, they started off with a softball because it's already been like set up. You just got to go square root, square root. Okay. Leo, what do I do with the square root of 12? Hint, you got to simplify it.
4 and 3.
So final answer,
2 or 3.
2 root 3, perfect. Now I got x plus 2, and I just did it wrong. It's so common for kids to forget that the square root of a variable has absolute value bars. If you don't have them, you get it wrong. And I know some of you were given a disadvantage because nobody showed you that, but I've showed it to you. All right, so now I'm splitting it. X plus 2 is 2 root 3. X plus 2 is negative 2 root 3. Minus 2 minus 2. X equals negative 2 plus 2 root 3, and the one with minus is going to be smaller. Negative 2 minus 2 SQRT, and I'm pretty sure the 3 in this is in parentheses. Does it give you that example?
Yeah.
With the 3 in parentheses? Yeah. So put your SQRT3 with a 3 in parentheses. This one goes in first. Uh-oh. X minus 2. What? I don't understand what you're talking about. I have a negative 2 here.
No, like the, you did x plus 2.
Oh, crap. Is there a mistake in the original problem? There is. This should be a minus, so that's going to change a couple things. Doesn't change everything. That's going to be minus. That's going to be minus. That's going to be plus. That's going to be plus. Plus, plus. So that means this 2 is positive. 2 plus 2 root 3 and 2 minus 2 root 3. So the 2's in the front are actually positive. That's all. Thank you for catching that. That's what you would type in for your first answer, and this one's smaller because they're subtracting something from it. So put that one in first. Whew. When the math teacher makes a mistake, you know these are tricky. It wasn't incredibly hard. I just copied something wrong, but it might happen to you too. That's all I got for you for today.